It's Wednesday, it's 7 o'clock, and another podcast on Question by Mark. This time I've got a panel of three plus myself, and we're going to be talking about you know what, you know who, and what they get up to. Now, when I talk about Tommy Robinson and his grifting and Paul Golding and what he's like, and various other players in that circus, and I'm talking about people like Paul Thorpe, Danny Roscoe, Liam Tufts, all those people that are taking money from the public, and it's not going to where they say that it's going to. And somebody needs to highlight this, and I'm going to keep trying to highlight this, and I'm going to keep pushing, I'm going to keep poking until I get somebody in front of me that will answer the questions that we need answering around certain things. Now, I know it's a touchy subject. I've lost many followers talking about this, but it's something that I'm passionate about because ultimately I've got the public's best interest at heart. I'm not trying to make a name for myself. I've got no interest in massive numbers. I've got no interest in anything like that, despite what people might tell you. What I'm interested in is the truth. And the truth is not being told. And the truth is being covered up by a cloak of different things, including Christianity, good deeds and things like that to enable them to do what they do. Now, I'm pretty certain that there's a lot of people that agree with what I say and what my guests are going to say and have said, but are too not scared, but would rather just keep the head below the parapet rather than saying anything. That's why we need these people to rise up and to start asking questions, because the more people that are asking questions to these despicable, horrible, fraudulent grifters, then the more pressure it puts on them and the more likely that they're going to stop doing what they're doing. However, that's going to be difficult. So there are people that won't speak out, but I'm pleased to say I've got three people joining me today that will speak out. So it's going to be an interesting podcast. We'll see what comes of it, but I'll introduce everyone by one. I've got Jayda Franson. Jayda, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Oh, tickety-boo. Absolutely tickety-boo.
Happy St. George's Day.
Happy St. George's Day to you as well. Simon Tomlin.
How
are we doing, mate? We spoke the other night, and glad to have you back on.
You're welcome.
And happy St. George's Day to you, mate.
You too, my friend. And Jayda, one and all.
And Harman. How are you, Harman?
Hi, good evening, everyone, and happy St. George's Day. I'm good. And hope you're all good.
Yeah. I have spoke to you about, I just want to ask, before we get into the crux of what we're going to be talking about, I just wanted to put something to Jayda first. Now, I have spoken to Jayda about this, and she knows what's coming. So, with regards to the Pope, so the Pope has died, and now we have a situation where they're looking to see who comes in. Now, as a Christian, I'm on the belief that we're at a pivotal point in Christianity where the 111th Pope has now died, and things point to a false prophet coming into everyone's view, and at the start of something big. I want to get your thoughts on the Pope first, and what you think he achieved while he was in office. Did you like the guy, and what you think about being a Christian, about what happens next?
So, in terms of this particular Pope's character, I'm going to be very respectful here. I have many friends that are Catholic. I was a Catholic for many years myself. I have to say I don't know many Catholics that were particularly thrilled with with a lot of the conduct of Pope Francis, but he has gone to meet the Lord, and so I leave the dead to God to deal with. I wasn't particularly fond of some of his views regarding, immigration and abortion and trans agenda. But I do also understand that there are millions, 1.4 billion people, in fact, for whom he was their pontiff. So my thoughts regarding Pope Francis is that I am praying for those who mourn him. And that's probably the best thing that I can offer regarding him specifically. In terms of the seat of the Pope, I think I have to say I think it's a bit of a dangerous hermeneutic. I think that I understand that you're probably referring to some sort of prophecy or some kind of almost like a Christian Nostradamus. So Malachi, I understand, is probably what you're referring to when you speak of the 111th Pope. And I would just say that as someone who was previously a Catholic and is now a Reformed Christian, a Reformed Protestant, there was something that I always found very difficult to square, and that was being a Roman Catholic and being a British nationalist. Just I couldn't square the circle. I think that Matthew's Gospel tells us that a house divided against itself, a nation divided against itself, can't stand. And so I found that something that was I couldn't square that circle. But anyway, the Holy Spirit was moving in me, and I'm now a Reformed Christian. In terms of these prophecies and these kind of theories about popes and how it affects eschatology, I would be very mindful to sort of steer clear of those theories, because you're almost dabbling with the occult, which we're told back in Deuteronomy that we have to be very careful of. We know that we've been in the end times since Pentecost, right? So we know that we're in the end times. And I do think that we're nearing the final days. And we know there are going to be very specific markers, like there's going to be the Antichrist. But there are many, many Antichrists. And you mentioned a false prophet. There are millions of false prophets at the moment, and they're taking lots of different shapes and sizes. And they're hiding in plain sight. And so I think that my advice would be, my humble advice would just be for everybody to, we've been told, Jesus told us that none of us know the hour, but we know that he's coming, and we know what's going to happen when he does. And so I wouldn't get too absorbed in these theories and because I think there can be a bit of a dangerous hermeneutic. And I think that the best way to approach this is to just walk as closely to the Lord as you can. And I know that obviously our other guests may not be Christian, so I don't want to harp on too much. But yeah, in terms of the Pope, I think there are a couple of candidates coming up that I think would be quite good to see take that space, because even as a Protestant, I am praying for a Pope who is biblical. I am praying for a Pope who is going to do good and is going to lead people to Christ. And I think that from what we saw with Benedict being replaced by Francis, I don't think that that's ever going to be allowed to happen. And I think that the candidates I would like to see come in will probably never be given the opportunity, because they're right-wing, genuine conservative Christians. But I am praying nevertheless.
Jayda, thanks for answering that. And sorry, guys, I just wanted to Jayda's thoughts on that with being a Christian and myself. We're getting a little bit of reverb from somebody. I'm not sure who it's from. I don't know if anybody else can hear that. I think you just check microphones or just move away a little bit or turn something down, because it's definitely there. Right, let's get into the crux of why we're here. It's my lifetime goal now to sort this out and to hold these people to account and to try and get to the truth and basically tell it how it is and tell the truth. Now, you will all know from what I do on X that I have major issues around donation money that was raised in the name of Peter Lynch. Now, I have asked time and time again over the last few days for somebody from Tommy's team to come and speak to me to answer a few questions, and nothing's come of it. The only invite that I've ever had is from Liam Tufts, and he wanted me down in Gatwick on 2 hours' notice, which I truly believe was some kind of ambush. So there's no reason why people can't talk over virtually over things. So I want to come to you first, Harman, because you're an interesting figure, because you was in Tommy's inner circle at one point. There was falling out, which we talked about when you was on my show last time, and then you've been very quiet. But in recent weeks and months, you've started to build up a little bit of not a name for yourself, but you're telling it how it is, and you started to put the pressure on yourself. So what's changed?
The thing initially when we go to the big pack in December this last year, I was contacted by, I think it was Liam. He called me and he told me that, Harman, you have to shake hands with the radicals from the Sikh communities who are their friends. If you don't, you are not part of the movement. I say, well enough. The radicals are radicals. The rapists, the people who give threats to a woman, they are same. regardless of their color, white, black, brown, and religion. If you are asking me to shake hand with the people who gave my family rape threats, who attacked me because they are your friends, then sorry to say, fuck off. I don't want to be in this movement. Prior to that, I did get a call and message from those radicals to join them for a better future. They want to pay me money because there's a movement called Khalistan movement for some other country, for separate land. There are many Sikh radicals here. They are friends with the kid called Guramit Singh. He's a grown-up man but he's a kid. He looks grown up, but he's a kid. That kid got friends with those radicals, and those radicals offered money to Guramit to put me down. And
when you say put you down, what do you mean? Kill you?
Just to keep me away from them, so I don't get any popularity and I will don't get any safety net. Okay. Because I've been attacked many times by these radicals for five, 6 times. A lot of happens with me in the past, but I stand and I keep on fighting because you got fight. Go back to your home country and fucking fight there. Don't bring your fight in this country. So, but those people offered money to me initially. I rejected them. Then they offered to Guramit. He accepted because they want money. They are fucking grifters. Initially, I thought that Tommy is not aware about this thing because he's in the jail. I kept quiet and I gave a benefit of doubt to Tommy that, he don't know and he know my situation, that these Khalistanis, what they did with me. And when I met Tommy knows about that. And now Liam told me that those radicals are friend of Tommy. We broke a bread together, so we have to shake hand. I initially thought that maybe Tommy is not aware of that, but recently when there's court cases going on, they called Tommy, like recently there was court paper in which it was said that Tommy was in contact with the other people outside at least 3 to 4 hours every day on telephone. Yeah. That gave me idea. Tommy knows everything. What happened? They sold me. I was with Tommy exactly only for the movement to unite the kingdom, because I am here. I came as asylum seeker. I took asylum. Now I live in this country for the last 28 years. I love this country. It's my time to pay back. And what happened with me? The establishment never helped me. The police, the government, authorities, the council never helped me. So I joined Tommy for that if I join the movement, what happened to me is not going to happen with somebody else. I lost a lot of money. I lost my restaurants, my businesses, friends, families because of all this. And I joined the movement. I don't want anybody else has to go through this shit. And at the end, the Tommy sold me for the money. I got records from the people who sent me messages to join them. And same people, the day the team Tommy posted against me that you haven't shake hand with the radicals, you're not a part of us. Same time, Mr. Guramit Singh, that kid, was with those guys in Birmingham.
One more thing. Can I add?
My wife is there to add something.
Sorry.
Hello,
guys. Sorry, I just jump in. That radicals, they put one video on Facebook, which they attack on my restaurant outside, and Gurmeet write it down. Downstairs, he have a comment on there. Harman and his family deserve that, and we had a click of that. So one side you're fighting to radicals, another part you are supporting the radicals. Mr. Kapoor deserve the rape threats, his daughter, everything, and that's a comment for Gurmeet Facebook account, which I took a picture for. I can prove that.
So these people are only showing one community that Islam is bad, and they are selling hate to make more and more money. It's not about Islam or Sikh or anybody. It's about the person who is doing wrong with the girls, with the ladies, women, with the countries. It should be about everyone. If Team Tommy, I call them Team Toxic. If Team Toxic wants a right thing to do, they should put everybody in the same bar. Any radical is a radical. Any person who is trying to give rape threats to anybody is same as other person. But no, they choose because their friend gave me rape threats, I need to shook hand with them. I need to take money from them to be on their side.
Harman, let me just bring in Simon at this point. So what Harman has said rings true with myself, and I'm sure it rings true with you, over the abuse that we get for speaking out against certain people. I've had death threats, you've had death threats, and Harman's had a horrible amount of things going on regarding his family, and you have too, Simon. This is a normal thing for these people, isn't it?
Oh yeah, actually, it's the standard practice in actual sense. I think it's just a template of terrorism, in my experience. Now, Harman mentioned Guramit Singh. Well, he lives 6 miles away from here, you know. So, and I know Nottingham very well, and I'm older than Guramit Singh, and I remember him from many years ago. And that video clip he sent you, he didn't send you sent it me, didn't you, on WhatsApp with him? Ain't nobody badder than me. Well, I can assure you, in Nottingham, there are scores of people much badder than Mr. Guramit Singh. And in all honesty, quite frankly, he's nobody on the radar in Nottingham in terms of the criminal underworld. He just thinks he is. Plastic gangster would describe him perfectly. But that aside, what they do have in common, I guess, with criminals and terrorists, because they're a combination of the two, is terror tactics. So it's straight out intimidation. If you don't worship the altar of their false prophets, see, Jayda was talking about false prophets earlier. Now, I'm not Christian, but the thing is, I recognize false prophets of every description everywhere. So that Nigel Farage is false prophet.
Simon, just bear with me, mate. I think it's you that's got the reverb, and it's quite, you're not coming across. So can I ask you to come off? I'll remove you from the stage and just log back in with the same link, and we'll see if that fixes it, please.
Okay.
Jayda, I'm going to come to you now.
I think it might actually be Harman's mic. I don't know if you're able to mute from your end. I think it is.
Yeah, it's Harman. It's your mic. So when you're not talking, can you just put that back a little bit and maybe mute it whilst other people are talking? I'll talk to you anyway, Jayda, while he's sorting that out. When we had our interview, it had such a good response. You've got so many good comments on it, and it went down really well. Did you notice how Paul Golding in particular dealt with it? Did you get any comeback from it? Did you get any grief from it?
Well, Paul Golding is, as I mentioned in the interview, Paul Golding is currently subject to a criminal investigation. And there's also civil proceedings that have been put on hold because the civil courts usually give way to criminal proceedings. So when they are contacted by the police force to say, look, this is being investigated, the judge will put that on hold. So Paul is obviously treading a very fine line here. And I expect at some point, I mean, he's already been interviewed, so he's well aware of the fact that all of these investigations are ongoing. But I think what he does is publicly, rather than because it's very difficult, isn't it? Look, the audio recordings of him that was provided by the guy that I called when I was running away from him, in which he admits to hitting me and another woman. We're not talking about a hunch. We're not talking about something. We're not speculating. This isn't something that we suspect has happened. This is something that's in the public domain. It's absolutely him saying these words, and countless thousands, tens of thousands of people have heard it. So it's not really something that you can defend, So I think rather than tackle it head on, or do the decent thing and apologize, which I like, a lot of time has passed, and I am actually quite a forgiving person. I do think that people should face worldly justice. I think that everybody has to meet their maker, right? There will be justice served for everything that we've ever done. But I do think that worldly justice applies to people. And so, but at the very least, I just don't see any level of remorse or any acknowledgement that anyone's, like, all of these people are doing all these bad things, and there's just never a moment where they hold their hands up. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I am far from it, right? We're all horrible, lowly sinners, and I'm one of the worst. But we all kind of grow and we move on in our lives and what have you. And I just don't see any of these characters, whether it's Paul Golding or whether it's Tommy Robinson, I don't see any of them taking any sort of accountability. I don't see any of them saying, do you know what, actually, I was wrong there. I mean, and that for me is a really, really poor trait, because it's a very weak man. It's, in the first instance, it takes a very weak man to attack a woman, to physically attack a woman. Absolutely. But it's secondly to then kind of bed down. And so the response that I had, the response that the indirect response from Paul Golding was to blast out in an email and across social media the same lie that I put to bed when I spoke to you about Hope Not Hate and this £20,000, which was a fundraiser done by the Knights Templar. And, you know, I've had people contact me who will watch the show and said, I was one of the people that donated to that. So, you know, like, there's loads of people out there that know that this is nonsense, but it's out in the public domain now. The explanation is there. Not that I think anybody should have ever needed one. I mean, if there's anyone that's going to sell out to the communists, it's not going to be the genuinely most persecuted nationalists. And you know, you were talking about something earlier, and Harman touched on this. I just want to say this, and then I'll give the floor back to you guys, right? Because I've spoken enough already. But Harman mentioned about the girls that should be protected, and that should be the priority. And it's kind of this. It's a strange reality that the men who are putting themselves forward as the leaders of this movement, who are pertaining to care about these young girls who have been groomed or raped, or pertaining to care about Muslim women who are being oppressed by Muslim men, right? All of these different avenues that they go down to attack the one group that they're interested in. And they're just paying no regard to the fact that both of these men are known to have attacked women. And let's not forget that Tommy Robinson's first conviction, or first known conviction, was for assaulting a police officer who was undercover and pulled Tommy, or Stephen Yaxley Lennon, off of his then girlfriend, who then became his wife, Jenna, because he was attacking her, physically attacking her at 3 o'clock in the morning outside these people's houses. An off-duty police officer came out, pulled Tommy Robinson, off of his girlfriend, who he was attacking, and he turned and attacked the police officer. And so this is one of the very first convictions that Tommy Robinson ever racked up. And then after that, we had mortgage fraud. We had illegally entering the United States of America on a fake passport. We talk about illegal immigration. I mean, honestly, the open goals that these guys have. And the strangest thing for me is you're one of the very few people that's actually kicking the ball in. These are open goals. Paul Golding has no right to speak about men who attack women or harm young girls when he himself has done that very thing. Tommy Robinson similarly has no right to speak about how oppressive Muslim men are to their women when he was physically attacking his own partner and was being pulled off by an off-duty police officer. These are really, and you know, not to mention the degeneracy, the prostitutes, the alcohol, the drug abuse. These are, and the grifting, you know, like the fraud. These are open goals, and I'm just delighted that you're one of the very few people that's willing to kick a ball into them. So keep going, Mark.
I will be kicking many balls into their goals. That sounded pretty strange. Just a quick one, Jayda. If Paul Golding apologised to you, would you accept it?
If it was sincere, absolutely. Look, the thing is, I don't need, you know, I don't have any contact with Paul, and I will never have contact with him again. He's a bad person. Aside from what he did to me personally and what I know that he has done to other women, it's just taking that aside. I cannot have anything to do with people like that. And even, you know, again, from one Christian to another, Mark, the Bible tells us, be ye not unequally yoked. We have no business associating with people that are moving in such dark circles and doing such dark deeds. So this isn't like some reconciliation. Let me just point that out. But certainly, if somebody offered their sincere apology to me, then I am gracious enough to accept it. Like I don't, and I you know, even at this point, I don't sit here holding a grudge, because I don't have anything to do with these people, and I'm very pleased to be away from them. But I just find it really disappointing that men of that age and who are pitching themselves as kind of right-wing heroes haven't even got the decency to admit when they've done wrong. We've all done wrong in the past, and varying degrees, obviously. But there's just no remorse, and there never will be, because it doesn't suit the grift. Once these people come out and say, "Do you know what? I was in the wrong. I hold my hands up." You've heard the audio recording of me admitting to hitting this woman and the mother of my child. That is inexcusable. I have no defense other than it was a long time ago. I am sorry for my actions and I won't repeat them. Why aren't people insisting on that as the very minimum from their right-wing heroes? The very minimum. Instead, people are just jumping on the bandwagon and saying, I get a lot of people saying, well, you probably deserved it. Whatever. What are you going to do with those kind of people?
One thing I can't stand is men that hit women. I've had my altercations with many women in the past, but I've never raised a hand to any of them. It takes a weak man to put a hand on a woman in any kind of way, whether that be a push, a slap, or a full-on assault. But you're a better person than what I am with regards to forgiveness and accepting an apology, because I don't think after what you've been put through, I would be so forthcoming with allowing that. But here we go. Paul Golding, you're probably going to get to see this. You're a rat of a man. You're a little weasel. Yeah, you're a wife beater. You're a woman hurter. But listen, why don't you wipe your hands clean, and why don't you do a public apology to Jayda and say you're sorry for all the shit that you caused her and all the pain that you put her through? And do you know what? You might actually get a bit of respect for that. I very much doubt it will happen, but let's see. I'm sure you'll get to watch this. So let's see if you're less of a rat of a man than what I think you are. Simon, sorry you got cut off before. You was talking about Guramit Singh.
It's not my audio. It's when Harman's off mute rather, then the reverb starts.
Yeah. Harman, just let me put Harman on mute. Just I'll bring you back in when you're ready to speak, Harman. I'll unmute you. Okay.
Yeah. So picking up from where we left off, basically, before we logged off into outer space and returned back to terra firma. So anyway, talking of false prophets and comment. So I mean, Farage is the biggest false prophet of the lot. Following slightly behind, of course, is Tommy Robinson. And these are the two fundamental architects that, in my view, the establishment are using to stop the rise of any form of nationalism or even any form of socio-political reform that will benefit the majority of people in the country. And I say the majority of the people is because no movement can ever please everyone. That's impossible. There will always be somebody who is opposed to what you believe. That's just a fact of life. But the essential point is, many people are fighting to effect some form of social, political, and economic change. And you've got these two con artists, Farage and Robinson, the two grandiose narcissists, and an enormous ego battle over which of the two is the falsest false prophet, shall we say. And all they're doing basically is they're just spinning an empty prayer wheel to desperate people. Manipulating them, drawing them in, raping them of their disposable income, which then can never be put into any genuine organization, a nativist organization, for example, committed to the actual common weal of the people of this country and to improving society for everyone, even though it's not possible to do it for everyone. But, as long as the will is there to do that, then that's a good thing. Achieving it is another matter. And the great mountain that stands in our path is this establishment safety valve operation. So in the case of Farage, he is most definitely 100% controlled opposition. He was from the outset. There's never been any doubt about that in my mind from when UKIP was formed in September 1993. John Tyndall made that perfectly clear in Spearhead magazine, who was pulling the strings, and that MI5 played a role in forming UKIP. But that said, I think the real issue with Tommy is not so much that he's definitely an establishment stringer. It's just that his tidal wave of criminality and terror tactics, and it's all well known to the police, if you can call them that, inverted commas. I don't even think of them as police anymore. But anyway, they indulge it, they tolerate it, because in essence, what it does is it keeps the collective right divided and essentially emasculated. They can never really move forward together, unified as one against the establishment. So they've got Farage and Robinson apparently at loggerheads with one another. I think most of that's just a pantomime. And largely on the Farage part, it's because of his rich Tory top friends, basically. And we can't be associated with those scummy working class people. They're uncouth and beneath us, you know. I don't know, because I come from a working class background myself. And I know that's how they think of it. So, in truth, until we eliminate the Tomlinson, the Robinson crime factory, which it has to be the first step to actually building a mass movement. I'm sure Jayda would agree with that, because no mass movement in this country will ever take off the ground, basically, whilst they're turning up at 50, 60, 70,000 to worship their idol, Tommy Robinson. And returning to the terror tactics that Harman was subjected to, it's entirely unsurprising. You know, it's the same playbook every single time. You refuse to worship at the idol of our false prophet, but they don't grow up as false prophets, obviously. And this is what will happen to you. And when it does happen to you, they make sickening comments like, "Oh, well, Harman deserved it." Or, why did he deserve it? No one deserved it. The simple truth is, it's outright criminality. Even that comment that Guramit made about the damage to Harman's business interests, is of a criminal nature. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's endorsing criminal activity. So it's drawing him into the fray. But, I mean, how can anybody be surprised? I mean, in Guramit's own words, "Oh, it was just a bit of fraud, innit, bro?" And this is what they're like. This is their attitude towards fraudulent activity and obtaining monies by deception. It's just a bit of fraud, innit? Afterwards, once they've done 9 years in prison,
Simon, let me bring Harman back in at this point, because Guramit Singh is a very interesting character, because he's definitely well embedded in the Tommy movement. Your phone is really reverbing, Harman. I don't know why. What we need to do to fix it.
Can you send the link to my wife's Twitter account, so I take her phone?
I think I've got your wife's WhatsApp number. Let me send a link to your wife's WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And go from there.
So I'll take, because my phone is very old.
Okay, no problem, mate.
Mark, before Harman comes back in, there's one thing I want to platform later after Harman's spoken, if that's okay with you and Jayda, is I want to flesh out this issue whereby Jayda relates the meeting between Robinson and his special branch handler at a pub in Bedfordshire. You know, I'd just like to pursue that matter further. Was his name Dave? Did you say, Jayda? This handler?
Yeah.
Did he reveal anything of why he was there, what he was doing specifically, what his purpose was? Spying on you and Golding and Britain first?
Yeah. So should we do this now? So
Harman,
okay, yeah, sure. So, well, the meeting itself was called by Robinson. Jim Dowson was in England. I was living in England at the time. Jim Dowson was over with a colleague of his. Paul and I were both living in England and running Britain First. And Tommy Robinson, whom we actually didn't have a lot of contact with. We didn't really have, because Golding and Robinson, this is so funny, right? But they despise each other. Paul Golding hates Tommy Robinson. And there's no other reason than the fact that Tommy Robinson is just broadly adored, which I'll always find a bit of a strange thing. But anyway, because people adore Tommy and Paul can't cope with that. And now I know that whole relationship has broken down because Tommy Robinson's had all of these rallies and he had everyone and their hound other than Paul Golding up on that stage, right? From Lawrence Fox to Calvin Robinson to random Jamaican singers to women in rah-rah skirts. And I think there was even a tranny at one point, right? Everybody's been on there, but Paul Golding doesn't get a look in. So that's going to hurt. Like, that's really going to hurt a man with an ego that size. So I think that relationship has broken down. But back then, Paul actually, when he was leading Britain First, said no one involved in Britain First was allowed to have any contact with Tommy Robinson or even publicly support him, right? So we really didn't have any contact with Tommy. Tommy Robinson calls this meeting and says, "Can you come and meet us in this pub in Bedfordshire?" And we went along. And this was in the daytime. And as I mentioned, it was Jim and his colleague, Tommy, and this other guy, Paul and I remember saying to Tommy, that guy smells like bacon. Right? It was just like, it was just, you know, you can tell, right? You can just see him.
Absolutely.
And I said, like, did you, I mean, I was obviously just being a bit sarky, but I said, like, did you bring a pig to the party, sort of thing? And he said, oh, this is Dave. He said, this guy works for the police. He works for Special Branch. And he said he came to see me every day. He said he's fine. He's a good guy. There's nothing to worry about with him. He came to see me every day when I was in jail. So he had done a little bit of bird, and this guy had come in to see him apparently every day. This guy had come in to see him when he was sitting in his cell. And this was the same period when Tommy brought a book out shortly thereafter. And in that book, I haven't read it, but in that book, I'm told that Tommy was supposedly asked, and this is something that he has admitted himself, that he was supposedly asked by Special Branch, by the police and the state, if he could just give information about Dowson and Britain First, myself and Golding, you know, that whole scene, because at the time Britain First was kind of the most prominent group, and there was a lot of street activism and agitprop and all that stuff going on. And he claims that he was asked to just hand over information about us and basically spy on us, I guess. And that if he did that, then they would forgive some of this debt that he'd accrued, because there was mortgage fraud that him and his wife were involved in, and she was facing jail time, right? They were basically saying, like, if you snitch on these people, then we'll keep your wife out of jail. And he alleges that he said no. And there's a couple of things here. First of all, the man is openly admitting that he spent every single day with someone from the branch, which is just absurd. And secondly, it is farcical to think that Tommy Robinson, who didn't know, I'd met him a few times when I went to a few of the EDL rallies, didn't know myself, and especially didn't know Paul. I don't think he'd ever met Paul. I think it was the first time he'd ever met Paul Golding. And he despised Jim Dowson. To think that Tommy Robinson was willing to throw his wife under the bus, who wasn't being done for political activism. They weren't facing charges for political activism. It was for mortgage fraud. To think that he said, no, I would rather risk my wife's liberty than snitch on these people, I don't believe it for a moment. And I think what we had there, even way back then, 20 years ago, I think we had a partial confession. And I said this at the time. I said, if anybody believes that this man, he doesn't know me, he's got no allegiance to me. And let's face it, we're not talking about an overtly moral character here who's you know, got really staunch principles. If this man was being told he's in a jail cell, he's in segregation, he's got a Special Branch sitting there every single day working on him and chipping away at him, telling him, we're going to lock your wife up, the mother of your small children up, unless you just cooperate with us and tell us what Franson and Golding and Dowson are up to. To think anybody who thinks that this man said, no, I won't do that, I'm a man of principle, you just don't know the guy, because the man has zero principles. And we know this from the grift that is ongoing. So yeah, again, this was one of those open goals, Simon. You know, when you hear something and you think, why can't people, I know why, they want a hero, right? Everybody's looking for a hero. They need the Lord, but everybody's looking for a hero to save them. They don't want to take responsibility. And like you said, come together and make positive changes. They want someone to do it for them, whether that's Nigel Farage, whether it's Tommy Robinson, whether it's Donald Trump, whoever it is. That's what they want. And it's not going to happen. But for that reason, they've got these rose-tinted glasses on, which means that when there is an obvious own goal, like Tommy Robinson telling this story, people can't look at that and say, well, it's no way he would have thrown his wife under the bus to protect these people that he hates. There's no way.
He probably did. You know, in all honesty, Jayda, you know, I was inside for a year, and I've served. Well, in total, I got just under 4 years for Thought Crimes Incorporated in our so-called lovely liberal democracy, where free speech is the norm and tolerated. Sorry for the sarcasm. And obviously, I was circulated as wanted for just under 4 years prior to that. And look, I don't recollect any time any Special Branch officer coming to see me in any way, shape, or form. In actual fact, on the last sentence, when I was inside for a year, I had nothing but constant problems from area command and counter-terrorism, because I was a member of a legal political party, you know which one I'm talking about, some 23 years ago. There's never been a criminal offence of any description, irrespective of what you think of that party. That's just the way it is. It's just not an illegal party. And so for somebody like Robinson, who claims to be an anti-establishment hero, to be visited every day by a special branch officer, and for them to tout the deal, i.e., flog what's left of your invisible soul to us, and we'll keep your wife out of jail. Well, that's what happened, isn't it? Because he went and she didn't.
Right, and Simon, just to go a bit further on that, not only did she not go to jail, which is what he alleges they were offering, they weren't stripped of their assets. Yeah. Have you ever in your days heard of someone being done for mortgage fraud? So they have obtained these loans by deception. They have acquired these properties with using loans that they've obtained by deception, and proceeds of crime haven't come in and said, we are taking those assets. No, it's okay. You can keep them. You can keep them. Just do us a favor and take Dave to the pub to meet Jayda and see if she, you know, and so it's again, open goal. Like, it's obvious what he did. He obviously sold us out, and his attempt, which was pathetic, but bringing this guy to this meeting then, so that I immediately knew. I thought, this guy's plot. Like, we had a lot of people hounding us in those days. We were doing a lot of crazy stuff. We were a lot of activities going on, and there was just, and it was from all angles, like death threats and all the rest of it. So I knew, I just could tell straight away, this is a police officer. And we sat down at this bench, and I was really uneasy. And I looked, Golding was sat beside me, and I looked at him and was like, what is this about? And the guy said, Dave said to me, can I take your number and can I give you my card? And I was like, no, mate, like, absolutely not. Oh, I don't think I said mate, but I was like, no, absolutely not. And you may recall back then I was probably less considered and calm as I am these days. You know, we all get a bit calmer with age. And I was really quite angry that Tommy Robinson had brought this man to this meeting, and it wasn't a long meeting. There was nothing discussed that was of any interest, because obviously this guy's there. And then to go a bit further, I didn't attend the second meeting. There was another one in the evening, and that was the really dodgy one. That was the one where Amory Walters turned up, and they were talking about trying to spark civil unrest by doing a Draw the Mohammed competition. And I didn't go to that. I said, I'm out of this. I'm not getting stitched up by these people, and they're not even good at it. Like, they're just obviously trying to get me stitched up.
Was this 2015 or 2016?
No, this would have been 15, I think. 15.
Right. So that basically is an approach. That's Tommy, you know, trying to link you up to become a covert human intelligence source. Whilst at the same time, back then they would have had at least one, possibly two National Public Order Intelligence Units officers undercover inside Britain First. And of course, they'd have a whole flock of little snitches. And they get as little as 20 quid a time for grassing. There's a great book called Undercover. And it's written by, is it Paul Lewis? And it has a co-author. Came out many moons ago during just after the Hackgate scandal, in actual fact. And it explains how left-wing and right-wing groups were heavily penetrated at the highest level by these Metropolitan Police Special Branch Special Demonstration Squad. I actually met one of them, and a composite figure of Agent Arthur at the BNP HQ in November 1993. And I told John Tyndall that these two people were definitely plants, and they were spying on us. And he left them in situ. He refused to kick them out. So that's when I walked away from it, basically. But
Harman, sorry, Simon. Harman, I'm going to come to you in a minute, and we'll carry on our conversation about Guramit Singh. But I just want to interject here. And it's funny you should say you get calmer with age. I've actually got more angrier with age. It's not my blood pressure. But they are quite right in what you say. There have been so many own goals by these false, fraudulent people. Why can't the public see it? Why you know, because it's out in the public domain about Tommy's cocaine habits. He admits it himself, you know, and people still deny that that's what causes him to be fidgety and sniffing and all that kind of thing. They say it's his ADHD. You know, it's quite clear that he was done for fraud. It's quite clear that he's been in contempt of court. It's quite clear he's facing terrorism charges. So why do people put so much trust in this man when he's achieved absolutely nothing with regards to saving the UK? Now, I will say at this point, he has done some good work with grooming gangs. That's undeniable. He's done it. But I know that he does that to enable him to do his badge, really. So why are people, you know, people like sitting here and listening to this, we can see it quite clearly. I'm quite clear that these lot are grifters, that they're and I found out quite quickly after following Tommy, actually. And then when you get a bit closer to him and you start doing a bit of research, you realize what the game actually is. But why are so many people blind to this?
Shall I offer my, no one's going to like this, by the way, so buckle up.
Oh, go ahead, Jayda.
I'll tell you what the answer to that question is. It's cowardice. That's why. This is what all of this boils down to, is abject cowardice. And if anybody is watching this and feeling convicted, if anybody is watching this and feeling offended, it's probably because this applies to you. And if it does, now is the time to do something about it. You know, there's a saying, isn't there? If you throw a stone into a pack of dogs, the one that yelps is the one you've hit. If somebody is yelping at me saying this, it's because you know that this applies to you. The reason people are turning a blind eye to cocaine abuse, to prostitute use, you know, brothel dwelling, to violently attacking women, to fraudulent activity, to raising funds by deception, and just all around degenerate, really, really poor conduct, even right the way down to minor things like foul language being used openly when you're someone who's in a position of authority or in a position of influence. The reason people are turning a blind eye to all of that, when just a few decades ago, not very long ago at all, previous generations would have absolutely shunned these kind of characters from our communities because we used to have a decent moral standard, is because of cowardice. Because if the people who support Tommy Robinson, notwithstanding all of those disgusting traits, if the people who support Paul Golding, notwithstanding all of those disgusting traits, if they were to call them out, if they were to say, okay, and acknowledge the fact that the cocaine's a problem, the prostitutes are a problem, the violence a problem, then they would have to do something. Rather than saying, I'm doing my bit by supporting Tommy Robinson, and by doing so, I have to turn a blind eye to his coke use and all the rest of it, then they don't have to do anything themselves. Right? That's all this boils down to. It is abject cowardice. People know that if they actually look at this for what it is and acknowledge that these are bad men and that they deserve zero platform, then maybe they need to fill their shoes. And I plead with people constantly, stop looking for one person to be the leader of the movement. Collectively, we can do this, right? Together, we can make real changes and we can win. We don't need an ego. We don't need a leader. You know, we don't need any of that. I mean, in actual fact, I'm a Christian. I have the ultimate leader. I have God. But even cultural Christianity, people having a decent moral compass, for example, if we just came together and said, we are going to set the bar higher, we are not going to settle for these standards, immediately we would see changes in our own communities. So anyone who's not willing to do that is being a coward, and you're not willing to address your own problems. Get off your backside. Stop waiting for someone to come in and save you. Get off your backside. Demand better. Push these people out of our movement, and let's make some decent changes. That's what I would say.
Absolutely well said. And do you know what? I second that, and I don't apologise for saying that. I try and open people's eyes daily. And it was only this morning I had somebody message me on one of my posts, which I'm putting out every day just to put a bit of pressure on these guys. And he basically says, I don't care what he does. I don't care what he does. He's the only person that can save the UK. And this is the problem that we face. This is the problem that we face. And it's exactly, yeah. And this is the frustrating thing, because he has such a large following. All of these people are... you're quite right what you say. They are cowardice because
they're cowards. they're cowards. So do you know what, Mark? Don't worry about it. Tell them that they're cowards, because
Absolutely,
look, if I was being a coward, I mean, I'm a woman. I'm allowed to be a coward, right? I mean, I'm a different kind of woman. Obviously, I don't believe that I'm in the position I'm in by mistake. I don't believe God makes mistakes. I think I'm a vocational character. So rather than being a little timid and meek flat family woman, which is what I should be, I find myself in the position that I'm in. That's fine. God's got a plan for us all. Happy to get stuck in. But if I were behaving in a way that was dishonorable or cowardly, I'd want someone to point it out. And frankly, the men of this nation that are coming to you, and I've seen it, Mark, it makes me feel physically nauseous. It makes me feel sick to my stomach seeing grown men, and I've seen the messages. I don't care what Tommy does. He's the only one that can save us. I've seen them, Mark. They are nauseating. This is the most pathetic conduct from grown men. I don't know whether it's homosexuality. I don't know what it is. I can't tell you what it is, because I'll never understand it.
Yeah, look, Jayda, there's one thing I'd like to say after, the spiel you gave in the previous part is, one thing they hate is being lectured by a woman. Because it cuts to the misogynistic trait in their nature, because they've got this, this patriarchal mentality, basically, and a great deal of thuggishness that goes with it. So being lectured by a woman is big no-no. That offends people like Golding. And talking of, misplaced hero worship, about a couple of hours ago, before we went on with this, I was watching, I think, is it Paz 45 or something like that on YouTube. He's a former British soldier, I mean, I'm sure. And he was talking about the possibility of a civil war, in this country, expanding on the issues generated by Professor David Bett. And he said right at the end of it, he says, I don't know, he says, maybe the only person who can lead us in a civil war is Tommy Robinson. I nearly fell out of the chair. I thought, well, he'll be in a villa in Spain somewhere, snorting mounds of coke, drinking God knows what it is he stuffs down his throat, basically, and making his silly little videos inciting people to violence back here and then denying it all.
Simon, from his villa in Spain.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Villa in Spain paid for by grifting.
Absolutely. This is what irks me, that people don't realise that he don't even live in the UK. His home is in Spain. That's how much he cares about the UK. That's how much he cares about the future of the UK, that he's not even here fighting the battles that we're all trying to fight. We're taking on the establishment and trying to put us in a position where we can have change. He's not even here. The only time he comes back to the UK is to either do jail time or to do a march, both of which earn him an awful lot of money. So that's why he comes back in. People, you need to open your eyes. I want to just stop there because I want to bring Harman back in. Harman, before you went, we was talking about Guramit Singh. Now, Guramit Singh is a very interesting character. I've had my issues with him. I know Simon has, and I don't know if Jayda has any run-ins with Guramit Singh. Now, Guramit Singh likes to think himself as a bit of a henchman for the Tommy movement. I've had a threat from him, basically saying as soon as he's finished what he's doing, I'm his next assignment, and he's coming to sort me out, which is what he said, and that's in the public domain.
Who is this? Sorry,
Guramit Singh.
Right, with all due respect, and I mean this respectfully, Harman, I appreciate the fact that you've taken time out to join this, and I was invited, so it's not I'm not hosting, but I just are there any Brits in the Tommy Robinson movement? Like, who is Guramit Singh? Who is this man? Why are we talking about this man in the context of British?
Guramit Singh is a friend of Tommy, old friend. He's an ex-offender. He had he done some armed robbery and he was in jail for 8 years. And initially, nice. and Tommy he sent him away that he don't want to be part with him. But then he called him back in his team. I was not aware about all these facts about Guramit. But I got no ill thing about Guramit because he's a kid. He's a kid. He behaves like a kid right now. Tommy gave him all responsibility, but all authority, but no responsibility. What he's doing with Urban Scam right now, he's using has his piggy bank. He's doing what he wants to do. He's using his account to go against anyone. They're using Tommy's account to go against anyone. They're not focused what they're meant to be. I was with them because they were. I was assuming they are against this establishment. What's happening with the people, and nobody's listened to them. But as soon as they sold me, I was with them, dedicated with them, without I was not getting any money from them. I lost money by attaching myself to them. I got more enemies because I've been to Tommy Robinson's rally. People think I hate all Muslims, and I got more enemies. Why? Because I joined Tommy. But that same Tommy and his team, they sold me for a few bucks. Guramit Singh, he's an armed robber. So what do you expect from him?
Absolutely.
Criminal is a criminal.
Yeah.
I got no problem with Guramit. He's keep coming after me again and again
Oh,
with some
absolutely.
silly photographs,
He's
silly
after you
posts.
daily.
He's behaving like a school kid.
Absolutely. It's interesting because Guramit Singh, Jayda, he's now entrenched within Urban Scoop. And what we've been told, and I know Simon's privy to this, now when all this when all that happened a few weeks, whatever it was, back with the Sun article, the Daily Mail article, and another paper, I forget which one it was, that the donation money. I'm aware that after that, donations coming into the team dropped by 70%. So that's significant, and that's come from Tommy's right-hand man who he's with in Spain, and a phone call was made. What's interesting though, Simon, is the guy that kind of orchestrated all of that, who was head of security for Tommy's team, Paul Bates. He's gone awfully quiet, and it's like I've had my issues with him because I felt like he left me out to dry when the Sun newspaper didn't say what I thought it was going to say. He's gone awfully quiet, so that's strange because I'm not in contact with him anymore, and I don't know what he's up to. But the last time I heard from him, he's got something big coming out. So I don't know what's happening there. But following this 70% drop in donations, what we're seeing is that Urban Scoop and Tommy's team, they're reinventing themselves as paedophile hunters. And Guramit Singh is the guy that goes to the houses, etc. And so there's a bit of a reinvention there because they're thinking, wow, we've got to change tact here. But the sad thing is,
where was Guramit? Let's stop. Guramit was nowhere in the picture from last 10 years in any of rallies, or he was just standing at the backstages. He has done nothing. Why all of a sudden he's big head of the urban scam? How come? What is the reason behind?
So many people cycle through this so-called imaginary movement, which is just a grifter.
Yeah. And the person
he fall out of favor, and Tommy has to appoint someone else, and he'll always.
But appointment should be someone without any criminal record. This person got a criminal record.
They don't worry about. They don't care about.
Scam.
They don't care about things like criminal record. Listen.
No, the thing is, but why I stayed away from them? Why I don't like what's happening? Because my trust was broken. I put everything that I'm doing something right, but in the end, my trust was broken by those grifters, those goons.
Yeah.
They're giving threats to me. That will
I
not
don't listen. Can I just? I don't know you, right? I've never spoken to you before. I don't know you from Adam. So, but if I could give you some advice, I think what you're doing is you're applying your own moral standards to people who don't have any, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You're looking at this and you're saying, why would Tommy Robinson appoint this Guramit guy as to run the urban scam? Why would he do that when this guy's been to jail for armed robbery and he's done an 8-year stretch? Well, because Tommy Robinson himself doesn't see a problem with criminality. Now, you are talking to 2 people, as I understand, no, 3 people, in fact, who have been incarcerated for political activism. Right? I think that's fair to say, gents. I don't want to speak on your behalf, but I think that's fair to say. You're speaking to 3 people that have. I have never been incarcerated for anything other than political activism. I've never been done for mortgage fraud. I've never been done for assaulting a woman or a man or a police officer. I've never been done for illegally entering a country. Right? These are things that just most normal people don't believe that drugs and violence and fraud is acceptable, and therefore. The problem is that because you do have people that are willing to actually risk their liberty, like we have done, for the sake of their cause and what they believe, those intentions get conflated with these other people. These other people are just criminals. They are just bad people. People that are robbing other people are not good eggs. But Tommy Robinson is of the same ilk as this guy. So the reason you're so confused by this, and even to a certain extent, Mark and I and Simon have said, like, why can't people see? They can see, but their moral standard is so low that they don't think it's a problem. And therefore, you are better away from these people.
True.
People think people don't want to raise voice because if they raise voice, this pack of wolves will attack them. People are scared.
Yeah.
The people are scared. They don't want to raise their voice. But I raise my voice because I'm not scared of any of this person. They may be goons, they're armed robbers. I'm not scared. I'm a God-fearing man. I fear my God. I don't fear any human being who is bullying anyone that he can ruin my life if I don't follow them.
And
this is not about following Tommy or Tommy team. This is about what's right, what's wrong, what's right for the country.
Harman, and this is why I applaud you, and this is why I got you on here, because you are somebody that's prepared to put his head above the parapet and say wrong, 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 bad, bad, and that's what I respect you for.
I don't need to be here because at right present, this government, this establishment, they are preferring people like me, brown people. They love me, but I'm against them. Why? Because I know there is a bad mold over there. I'm fighting something bad.
Let me just go back to what I was just saying about them reinventing themselves, with Guramit being the head of this, about pedo hunting, if you like. There are hundreds of paedophile hunting teams out in the UK that are doing this in their spare time, taking days off work, using their own fuel, using their cars, and putting out their own expense so that they can grab a dirty, rotten scoundrel out of his house or out of her house and expose them for what they are. So why are people not asking questions when Urban Scoop and Guramit Singh are asking for donations to do exactly the same thing?
Well, Mark, can I say this? Yeah, because I think this is an important point. It doesn't just stop at threats. Remember, I've explained this to you before. So I'll detail 4 incidents, violent incidents, unprovoked assaults on me, or failed assaults, because I can look after myself to a certain degree. One on the hedgerow in Leeds, one on Nottingham Road in Nottingham, another one on the Riverside in Cardiff, and another one on London Road in Brighton. And in all 4 incidents, only one was it one-on-one, and he failed completely. All the others were mobbed up and they failed as well. And all of that came as a result of incitement to violence from gaslighting on the internet, falsely accusing me of having stolen £500,000 from UKIP. I've never been in UKIP, never been a member, never raised a penny from them, and also being a convicted paedophile. Their favourite smear is to accuse people of being a nonce without a shred of evidence. And the moment you put them under the spotlight using facts-based evidence, in the same way that we've done by asking for audited accounts, they just melt, they crumble, and they resort to even more threats. So that's the point I want to make. This is a violent movement. It's not committed to, it's a violent organization. It's not a movement. They're not trying to move anything, not even the Overton Windet. When they can't get things their own way, they will resort to violence. And they incite their trolls, basically. Because what surrounds Tommy, in my opinion, is just an organised troll factory, quite frankly. And gaslighting, smears, and it is the norm against all of us. We've all had it.
Exactly. Jayda, you was about to answer what I said before. Is it just down to the same thing? It's just cowardice. They just want to turn a blind eye. They know exactly what's happening. I mean, are people really that stupid?
Yeah, well, let me say something, because maybe I didn't make this clear earlier. But when I say this stuff, right, I say it out of love, genuine love. Like I always say, genuine nationalism is born out of a love for one's people and one's nation. If you are driven by hatred, you cannot be a nationalist. It won't work, because this doesn't work. Men don't go to war because they hate the enemy. They go to war because they love the people they're protecting back home, right? And if that wasn't the case, no man would ever have gone to war. But there's some people that love a scrap, but generally the principle is True nationalism comes from loving one's people and one's nation. And that's where I come from, is a position of love. So when I tell people about their cowardice, I'm not saying it because I want to be offensive or I want to harm them or hurt them. I want what's best for them. And when I see them giving their money to these grifts, especially this latest one, and this latest one ties in really with the whole premise, the whole principle that Tommy Robinson is in jail for exposing grooming gangs, right? Because this is the narrative from Elon Musk to his father to everyone in between. The narrative that's being peddled online is that Tommy Robinson is in jail for exposing grooming gangs. And respectfully, even earlier, you said Tommy Robinson has done a lot of work on grooming gangs. Now, I beg to differ, right? Let's just look at the first most obvious example here. The first most obvious example is that Tommy Robinson is not in jail for anything to do with a rape or grooming gang. Nothing whatsoever. Tommy Robinson is in jail because a friend's son was going to school with a Syrian migrant called Jamal.
Yeah.
And Jamal was accused of bullying Tommy Robinson's friend's son. And Tommy Robinson went and sat with this kid and made a documentary about a schoolboy called Jamal and alleged that this boy was bullying his friend's son, whom he didn't say was his friend's son. He made it seem like he didn't know him, and another girl at the school. And they made a documentary and they said that this kid was a bully. And what transpired was a court case came about, civil case. The child, the Syrian migrant, sued Tommy Robinson for defamation. He won the case. The court found that Tommy Robinson libeled this kid because, in fact, it wasn't the Syrian migrant that was the bully. It was the other boy that was bully. Now, I want to say something here. I went to jail for 9 months for exposing a rape gang. I went to their houses. I went to their shop. I went to the court. I put leaflets through all of the neighbors' doors, letting them know that these men were out on bail. That was specifically for confronting groomers. Tommy Robinson made a documentary about a bully. Now, I hate bullying. It's one of the things that I hate most in the world, whether it's, kids bullying each other or adults bullying kids or even people bullying animals. Anything that's defenseless, anything that's vulnerable, I hate bullying. But there are millions of bullies up and down the country, and whether they are white, black, or polka dot, there are millions of them. And I hate it. And it's something that I want to see stamped out, especially in schools, because it's little kiddies and you don't like to think of kids as bullies, but there are. Is it reasonable for a 40-year-old man to make a documentary about a 14, 15-year-old boy, accusing him of being a bully? And when he was told to take that film down by the state, by the courts, refusing to do so, which ultimately led to him being incarcerated. He is in jail for 10 counts of contempt of court because the judge said, this boy isn't a bully, take the video down. Now, even if the kid is a bully, right, let's just say that the court got it wrong. Even if the kid is a bully, is this reasonable? Is it reasonable that 40-year-old men are dedicating their lives to going after waging some sort of vendetta against a bully because he's a Syrian migrant? I'm sorry, but this is bizarre. I don't like immigration into my country. Respectfully, I don't want any immigrants in my country at all, right? I don't. But this is madness. And so this is, again, this ties in with this false narrative that he's a right-wing hero and he's saving grooming victims. I have never seen him at any of the court cases that I used to attend for these victims. There was a girl that him and Rebel News, her name was Chelsea, she was gang raped. They raised hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds in this girl's name. It was under the Justice for Chelsea campaign. This girl was given £1,500 to take her children on holiday, and Rebel and Tommy Robinson kept the rest of the money. I used to go up to when I was living in the south of England, I used to go up to Sunderland to see this girl and give her a bit of money now and then so that she could buy food to feed her children. And these men had fundraised in her name to get justice for Chelsea. So this whole thing has been a grift from the get-go. And in terms of their contribution to the grooming gang exposure, I'm pretty certain that happened way before my time, even in the days of the BNP, the British National Party, with Nick Griffin and other people that were around at that time. So, I've done my bit, and I will continue to do my bit to try and confront this issue and keep it at the forefront of people's minds. But if someone can give me some tangible evidence of what Tommy Robinson has actually done in the name of helping grooming gang victims, I eagerly await.
Yeah.
One more thing is, sorry, I forget.
Yeah, I just want to say that, be very quick. You know, the
Yep.
Justice for Chelsea campaign, technically speaking, law, isn't that embezzlement?
Yeah, all of this is like obtaining money by deception. This is fraud. All of it. Simon, even the fundraiser right before he went to jail, he put an email out and there was a picture of Tommy Robinson hugging his children. And it says, this is the fight of my life, right? This is on my little Twitter page if you want to have a look. I'm in the fight of my life. And he said, I need to raise £150,000 to get the absolute best legal representation to keep me out of jail. I'm going to fight, right? Leaning on the Trump thing.
That's right.
This email went out and expressly stated that he was going to use the money to fight and defend himself. He walked into court and said, guilty as charged, no trial, no contesting obviously it's a civil trial. I'm not going to contest this. I absolutely accept responsibility and culpability, and was duly sentenced thereafter. So there was no defense. So this is deception, right? If he tells you to give him money so that he can fund his defense, and he promises you that the use of that money is to defend his case, and then he pockets it and says, right, I'll just go to jail, do my time and come out, and thank you for the £150,000. That was his campaign. Ezra's raised at least, these guys are now up to over 2 million that has been raised just from this jail stint, just this one. So this is fraud.
It is, absolutely. I mean, we estimate the actual grifting proceeds from 2017, which is when I became, very much interested with these people because of the threats they were making against me, is well over 7 million. Of course, there's Ezra, of course, who is really the kingpin of grifting behind all of it, which is something that'll annoy him no end. But let's pass the floor back to Harman.
Yeah, listen, we've run over. I'm going to be out of time soon. So, Harman, please say what you got to say, then we'll do some closing stuff.
I do two things to say. One thing just said about the money he took and he pleaded guilty. So, similar thing happened to me last year. I was going through some court cases and I don't have any money. So, I do GoFundMe page. And I asked for people from my community to help me to fight the court case. I did receive the all money I needed. I received less. So what I did, I returned the money back to the people because that was not enough money. Because that money is no use to me. And that money, they sent me to help my court case. But there was no court case. So there's not enough money to get a barrister. So I returned the money to most of the people who gave me their bank addresses. Because I don't want money which is not meant for me. That money was meant for the court fees. I done it back. Other thing is, last month, my daughter was abused, like not abused, was threatened and given rape threat in open by some Sikh radicals, the community who Guramit Singh loves. There is a Jat community who is a member, Gurmeet is a member of that community. And his people, Gurmeet friends, I can say his people, his community, they threatened my daughter in open and gave her a rape threat. I posted regarding this. I posted the photos of people. But Urban Scam didn't post anything against those people. And they keep on saying, we are fighting for the women. Why not my daughter? Why didn't they post regarding my daughter, what happened to my daughter? Because those were the friends of that armed robber, Guramit Singh. He knows those people, his community. They are doing this urban scam only for people, only one community. They are not doing it for people who they know, who are their friends. This is all scam. They are selling hate, and hate. That's all. I want to tell people, be wise.
Yeah,
Don't send your money to the people where they're using it. I got a lot of things.
absolutely.
I posted one watch last month that this watch cost £42,000. But to get that watch, you need to buy 6, 7 watches before that to get that watch, Rolex watch. So just imagine how much
Absolutely.
money you're paying them and they're living the lavish life.
Harman,
Yeah.
keep doing what you're doing. I'm glad I've had you on. I'm glad you've been able to have your say. Look, there's so much more to talk about. Maybe we'll get together another day and discuss it further. But Harman, I'm going to say goodbye to you. Thanks for joining us, mate. Listen, this is not going to end. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm sure you two guys are going to be doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Simon, anything you want to say before I kick you out of the studio?
Well, quite frankly, I mean, it's been a pleasure taking part in this podcast, and I honestly do think that we do need to get together again at a later stage and probably broaden, I guess you could say, the panel with some of the guests who are knowledgeable about it. Because at the end of the day, I think there are a whole lot more people out there who've got something to say. I might be able to persuade a couple of people. I'll see. But yeah, I think we definitely do need to continue. And we need to maintain the pressure and the heat. And let's face it, I mean, we've got an enormous amount of evidence of the threatening behavior, haven't we? And intimidation, death threats, etc. And like Harman said just there about the threat to rape his daughter, well, they had one of their goons threaten to rape my former fiance. And obviously, I had to read in the very unpleasant details of Rule 38, i.e. the consequences for trying to carry out that threat. But this is what they're like. I mean, I've never threatened to rape anyone. You know, I've never threatened to kill anyone, basically. I've never sent anyone a death threat. They just make up the biggest pile of claptrap about us. And it's the fact that they have to resort to this grotesque, threatening behavior. And some of the threats I've had against me from one of these fanboys on Facebook was, I hope a Muslim beheads you. But I thought you people were opposed to Islamists. Evidently not. So I'll leave it there. Thanks for your time.
Go-to thing, mate. It's textbook. Thanks for joining me today, Simon. I'll speak to you later on the phone.
You're
mate.
welcome.
Jayda, I'm on the opinion that even if we open the eyes or just get somebody to do a little bit of research, even one person, then I will do these every day of the week, even if I get one person. Your closing thoughts?
I'm going to say what I said to you last time, and I've said it to you privately as well. You're on the right side of this, Mark. You really are. I can tell that your intentions are good. You're genuinely concerned about people, and I am of the same opinion as you. If one person, and believe you me, there's already been more than one person, Mark. I know countless people that have come to me personally and said, I watched that conversation with you guys and my eyes have been opened. I mean, and this happens a lot, you know, and over the years, obviously I get a lot of this. I haven't really done a lot of speaking out, to be quite honest. You know, when I sat and spoke with you, I hadn't told anyone a lot of these details. So they were unbeknown to people, but you're on the right side of this and just keep going. And I'm the same. And again, I think it's because our motivation is a pure one. The motivation isn't, these are our arch enemies and they're grifting and we want to grift instead, so we're going to try and take their people. We're not asking anyone, we don't want their money, you know. And frankly, I have actually said to people, look, you know, I run the Christian Nationalist Party. People have said to me, you know, would you ever want to take back control of Britain first? Never, ever again would I want anything to do with, and that's not because there aren't some decent people in that movement or in the right wing, but it's because when you've got bad people, bad characters like this involved in the right wing, I can't be involved in it. I won't be involved in it. And so what we're trying to do is just tidy it up. And I do offer an alternative platform for people, but it's very hard line. It's Christian and people don't necessarily want to have that moral standard. But I know that you're a Christian and I know that you're doing the right thing. And you said earlier about a drop in their revenue. And this is good news. It really is. And that's not just because I don't want them using tens of thousands of pounds buying Rolexes and £1,000 trainers for their kids and all the rest of it. It's not just because of the holidays and the cocaine and the brothels and all of that. It's because on the other end, the reality is there is a scared, desperate, sometimes elderly woman or man opening up their purse or their wallet and giving away money that could otherwise be used to benefit them or their families, and it's being given to a cause that is fraudulent. And that's what I care about. I have no problem with people amassing huge amounts of wealth honestly. I'm a capitalist, right? I'm happy for people to be wealthy and successful, but do it honestly. If you're stealing money by offering false hope and lies to vulnerable people who are desperate, people that just desperately want change, they're worried about their kids, they're worried about their grandkids. This is the lowest form of fraud that I think you could possibly find. So thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate you immensely.
Jayda, thanks for coming on again. I've enjoyed every chat that we've had. Have a lovely rest of the day, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right.
Okay, so what can we take from this today? So what I will say is Jayda's quite right in what we're not doing this, and we don't do this out of jealousy or out of spite or out of fame and fortune. We do this because we genuinely care. We genuinely care for each and every one of you that are putting your hard-earned money, especially in today's climate, into buckets and into things that you think they're going to when they're not. That is generally all it is. That's all it's been for me. And all we get is hate and abuse for it, death threats for it, and people coming at us from all angles and trying to silence us. That should ring alarm bells with you anyway. Why would we get this amount of hate? Why would we get, the publications that Urban Scoop put out, very unprofessional, saying that, the gloves are off and all this kind of thing? It rings bells. It should ring alarm bells. And everybody said that, why haven't they answered these questions that I'm going to continuously ask for? So out of today, what you need to know is this is because we're trying to be nice people. We're trying to look out for you, and we don't want you giving away your money into something which is just not what you think it is. And that is genuinely what it is. I don't want fame. I don't want fortune. I don't earn nothing for anything that I do. I've lost thousands of followers, and I would, I'd happily lose 1,000 more if they were people that were brainwashed by what's going on in front of their very noses. What is going to come out today is I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to be silenced. I'm going to keep picking. I'm going to keep prodding. I'm going to keep trying to find my evidence. I'm going to keep trying to find ways that I can expose these people, and it's not going to stop. And the reason it's not going to stop is this comes from me around the Peter Lynch donations thing, and it means a lot to me because he was in the same position as what I was in, but ultimately he had to take his own life because he couldn't bear what was happening, and that saddens me. Now they can say I'm digging up Peter Lynch's corpse as much as they like. That's their go-to. Yeah, but I'm genuinely not. They raised a lot of money in his name, and it's not the £4,000 that they said it was. And all I ask is just to show us your accounts for the money. Every charity needs to have debited accounts. We want the paper trail. We want to see it. Why wouldn't you just show people that you only raised £4,000? Why wouldn't you do that? Why would you want somebody like me picking and prodding and poking the bear and asking you questions? Why would you want that? You can say I'm irrelevant and I don't matter, but I'm not going away. And Harman's not going away. Simon's definitely not going away. And Jayda will always speak her mind, and she will always tell the truth. And if 1, 2, 3 people watch this and think, you know what, I'm actually going to do a little bit of research, I'm going to look at your mother, I guarantee you'll find exactly what we've found. I was in contact with Angela Lynch when they were saying that they had been to see her to offer her money. It's a lie. I promise you it's a lie. Angela Lynch and her family have gone to ground because they are so scared of everything that's happening around this money. There's a police investigation going on. I can't leave this. I won't leave this. I shan't leave this. Think of me what you like. You can call me hope, not hate. You can call me an informant. It's simply not true. Prove it. There's no proof of me being that person. I went to jail for free speech, for trying to speak up for what was happening in the UK. I'm not a fraud. I've got the T-shirt. I've been there. I've done it. Yeah. You call me coward. You call me a coward. You go on about me backtracking and boo-hooing. That's all right. I can take that. But one thing I'm not is a coward, because I was prepared to take on the establishment, and I won, for that matter. This is not going away. I'm going to do these videos as much as I possibly can, and I'm going to keep asking the questions that need to be answered. Why won't they answer the questions? So, Paul Golding, make your apology. Be a man. Stop being a weasel and stop being a malt. Make a public apology. She may well accept it, and then it's all done. And for the rest of you watching this, I hope you enjoy what we do and what we try to do, and what we're ultimately trying to expose, and who ultimately we're trying to help, because we're not the bad people here. We are on the right side of things, and I respect Jayda for what she said. Listen, much love to all of you. Keep safe, stay strong, and I'll speak to you soon.